Hello everyone, good morning to all. Welcome to our new session of e-learning class. I am Rashmi Ranjan Mishra, lecturer of UN Autonomous College of Science and Technology. Today I am going to discuss on a subject regarding business law. So on today's discussion, the chapter is relating to discharge of contract. So now I am going to discuss what do you mean by discharge of contract, what are the different modes for which a contract is said to be discharged. So let us come together, join with me, watch my video. If you have any doubt, then you can give your comment in the comment section. So first, what do you mean by discharge of contract? Discharge of contract means termination of a contractual relation between the parties to a contract. That means when the parties to the contract, they discharge from each other, or the terms and condition for which the contract is going to perform and it is already performed, nothing to do from either side. In that case, they are released from each other. In other words, a contract is said to be discharged when it ceases to operate. That means when the rights and obligation created by the parties comes to end, it is also called as a discharge of a contract. There are different methods or modes by which a contract is discharged. One is by performance, second one is by agreement, third one is by impossibility of performance, the fourth one is by lapse of time, then by operation of law, then the next one is by breach of contract. So one by one we will discuss everything, the modes for which a contract is discharged. The first one is discharge by performance. Discharge by performance takes place when the parties to the contract fulfill their obligation arising under the contract within the time and the manner prescribed. In such case, the parties are discharged and the contract comes to end. So when the contract is said to be performed by both the parties, the terms and the condition or the agreement for which they are going to perform, and the contract when obligations are fulfilled arising under the contract within the time prescribed and the manner prescribed or the mode prescribed, in that case the contract is said to be performed by both the parties. And when contract is performed by both the parties, in that case they want to discharge from each other, and that is called as a discharge by performance. But if only one party performs the promise, he alone is discharged. When both the parties perform, they release from each other. If one party performs the promise, then the party is discharged, and such party gets a right of action against the another party who is guilty of breach. Performance of a contract is the most usual mode of its discharge. It may be actual performance, the second one is attempted performance. The second one is discharge by agreement. As it is the agreement of the parties which binds them, so by their further agreement or consent, the contract is terminated. The general rule of law is a thing may be destroyed in the same manner in which it is constituted. This means a contractual obligation is discharged by the agreement which may be expressed or implied. So there are various cases of discharge of contract by mutual agreement which dealt with section 66 and 63, and these are we will discuss one by one. The first one is novation. It takes place when substitution of a new contract for the original one between the same parties. The consideration for the new contract is mutually being the discharge of old contract. Novation that should take place before the expiry of the time of the performance of the original contract. The second one is rescission, means a contract takes place when all or some of the terms of the contract are cancelled. That means either by mutual consent of the parties, or when one party fails in the performance of his obligation, and in such case the other party rescind the contract without claiming compensation for breach of contract. In case of a rescission, only the old contract is cancelled and no new contract comes into place. Then the third one is alteration. It means a change in one or more of the terms of the contract with the mutual consent of both the parties, and in this same case or in such case the old contract is discharged. The next one is remission, means acceptance of a lesser fulfillment of the promise made or acceptance of a lesser degree of performance than what was contracted for actually. Next part, that is called as waiver, which is mentioned under section 63. When a contracting party fails to perform his obligation under the contract, the other party may rescind the contract and may waive the promisor or release. So this is called as a waiver. It will take place when the parties to a contract agree that they shall no longer be bound by the contract. That means both are discharged from each other, abandonment of the rights. Next one is merger. It will take place when an inferior right accruing to a party under a contract merges into a superior right accruing to the same party under the same or some other contract. There is one example. P holds a property under a lease. He later buys the property, his rights as a lessee merge into his rights as a owner. The third mode of discharge of contract, that is impossibility of a performance. That means when contract is not performed, that is not possible to perform by both the parties, that is called as a impossibility of a performance. And when the contract is not possible, in that case the contract is discharged from both the sides. If an agreement contains an undertaking to perform an impossibility, it is void. So when any agreement or contract is based upon impossibility, in that case that is called as a void. And the rule is based on the following. That means the law does not recognize what is impossible. Nothing is taken into consideration by the law if it is impossibility. The next one is what is impossible does not create an obligation. The next, according to section 56, impossibility of performance may fall into either of the following categories. Impossibility existing at the time of the agreement. That means at the time of forming the agreement, if it is impossible to perform, that is called as a initial impossibility. And when initial impossibility is there, both the parties are discharged from both sides. So it lays down that an agreement to do an act impossible in itself is called as a void. This is known as pre-contractual or initial impossibility. Second one is the subsequent impossibility. That means initially that is possible to perform, but after formation, due to some technical defect or any other reason, that is not possible to perform by either side. It is called as a subsequent impossibility. Impossibility which arises subsequent to the formation of a contract is called as a post-contractual or a supervening impossibility or subsequent impossibility. So when contract is based upon initial impossibility or subsequent impossibility, in that case the contract is discharged from either side and the parties to the contract are released from both sides. The next one is discharge by lapse of time. The Limitation Act 1963 lays down that a contract should be performed within a specified period of time, and that is called as a period of limitation. If it is not performed and no action is taken by the promisee within the period of limitation, he is deprived of his remedy at law. And in other words, we may say that the contract is terminated within a period of limitation. If it is not performed, in that case that party deprived of the remedy and the contract is terminated. The fifth category of a mode of discharge, that is discharge by operation of law. A contract may be discharged by operation of law which take place by death. That means when parties to the contract or any of the parties dies, in that case the contract is not performed by the other party. So it signifies that if contract involving personal skill or ability of the promisor, the contract is discharged or terminated on the death of the promisor. Second one is by insolvency. When a person is adjudicated as insolvent, he is discharged from all the liabilities incurred prior to his adjudication. That means one insolvent person, that means when the personal property is not sufficient to pay the debt obligation, in that case the person is declared as insolvent. And when the person is declared as insolvent, he is discharged from all the liabilities incurred prior to adjudication. By unauthorized alteration of the terms of the written agreement, where a party to a contract makes any material alteration in the contract without the consent of the other party can avoid the contract. The next one is by rights and liabilities becoming vested in the same person. When the rights and liabilities under a contract vest with the same person, the other party is said to be discharged. The sixth mode, that is discharge by breach of contract. Breach of contract means parties stands from releasing each other. That means there is a gap or break the obligation of the contractual relationship. So by breach of contract, we mean that promisor fails to perform the promise or breaking of the obligation which a contract imposes. It occurs when a party to the contract without lawful excuse does not fulfill his contractual obligation or by his own act makes it impossible, then he should perform his obligation under that. So the breach of contract may be of two types: actual breach, second one is anticipatory breach. So the actual breach means promisor failure to perform the promise on due date of a performance, and when a promisor fails to perform the promise on the due date, it is called as a actual breach of a contract. But anticipatory breach means that stands or expectation or there is an anticipation that there may be breach occur. It occurs when a party to the executory contract declares the intention of not performing the contract before the performance is due. So it may be two ways: expressly by words, implied by the conduct. So there is one example: a person contract to sell a particular horse to another on 1st June, and before the due date he sells the horse to somebody else. So that is called as a one type of a discharge of contract. So these are the various modes where a contract is said to be discharged. So when there is a case of a discharge of contract by way of a breach, what is the remedy? Parties to a lawful contract are bound to perform their respective promises. But when one of the party terminates the contract by refusing to other to perform his promise, he is said to have a committed breach of contract. Breach of contract is not an unlawful act because the contract act accommodates it. It is quite likely that a person may not keep his promise, but the act has made provision for the remedies of the injured parties. What is the remedy available to the aggrieved party? In case of a breach of contract, there are some of the remedies which are available to the aggrieved party. There is a case of a restriction of the contract, there may be damages, quantum merit, specific performance of the contract, and an injunction. So what is restriction of contract? When there is a breach of contract by one party, the aggrieved party may rescind or cancel the contract and need not perform as part of the contract. The aggrieved party has to file a suit for restriction, and when restriction is granted, the aggrieved party is absolved from all his obligation. There is one example: A promises to deliver a table to B on 5th February and B promises to make the payment on delivery. If A does not believe the table on the fixed date, B need not to make the payment. So that is called as a restriction. Next one is damage. That means the monetary compensation allowed to the aggrieved party for loss or injury suffered by him by breach of contract. The fundamental principle underlying the damage is not punishment, but one type of a compensation to the pecuniary loss. The primary purpose of avoiding damage is to put the aggrieved party in the same position in which he would have had the contract be performed. Next, quantum merit, that means as much as earned. So that is signifies quantum merit, or according to the quantity of work done. When the person has begun the work and before could complete it, if other party terminate or does something which makes it impossible for other to complete the contract, he can claim for the work done under that contract. This claim arises based upon the contract or based on quasi contract. Next, specific performance. In some cases where damages are not adequate remedy or actual damages cannot be measured, the court may direct the party who has broken the contract to actually perform the promise. Fifth, that is injunction. Where a party is in breach of negative term of the contract or where he is doing something which he promised not to do, the court may by issuing an order restraining or from doing what he promised not to do. One example, N, a film actor agreed to act exclusively for W for a year and for no one else, and during the year he contracted to act for Z. It was held that he could be restrained by injunction from doing so. So these are the some of the remedies that are available in case of a breach of contract. So when this type of a situation arises, the aggrieved party has the right to terminate the contract or to release from the other party for which or with which he is going to perform the contract or he is already performed the contract. So when discharge of contract arises, in that case both the parties they stands to release from each other, and everything that will be distributed among themselves, or if any of the party wants to release, then that can release, other party either join with some other person to form a new contract, or that party also release to close down the contract, and the contract comes to an end and the agreement between the parties is already discharged. So next part we are going to discuss relating to quasi contract and what are the various cases that are deemed as quasi contract. So first we have to discuss what you mean by quasi contract, then we will discuss the cases deemed as quasi contract. Quasi means almost or apparently but not really, and a contract means an agreement enforceable by law. So quasi contract is not a contract at all because the essential element for the formation of a contract are absent. It is an obligation imposed by law upon a person for the benefit of another even in the absence of a contract. It is based on principle of equity. So in simply we can say that quasi contract means a contract where there is no intention to form the contract between the parties, but the law enforced to form the contract. So that's why it is called that it is not a completed contract or it is not a contract at all, but the law enforce that if the parties are intended to enter into an agreement, then they must have to form the contract. That's why quasi means apparently or almost but not really, and quasi contract is not a contract at all. So there is one example of quasi contract in case of a plumber who accidentally install a sprinkler system in the lawn of the wrong house. The owner of the house had learned the previous day that his neighbor was getting a new sprinkler. That morning he sees the plumber is installing them in his own lawn. Pleased at the mistake, he says nothing and then refuses to pay when the plumber hands him the bill. Now it's come under quasi contract because the man already knew that the sprinkler were being installed mistakenly. So court could make him pay because of quasi contract. That means the plumber by mistake installed the sprinkler system, the person concerned with his neighbor. The neighbor already know that the sprinkler which was installed by the plumber, that is by mistake, but when it is installed at his house, in that case the neighbor people must have to pay the price as per the court of law because it is under quasi contract. There is no intention of the neighbor to install the sprinkler system at his lawn, but when it is installed by mistake by the plumber, in that case the neighbor must have to pay the price to the plumber. There are various features of a quasi contract. The first one is a quasi contract is not a real contract. It is not based upon the offer and acceptance rule because there is no intention to form the contract. The third one is it does not arise from any formal agreement but it is imposed by law. The fourth one is it is a right which is available not against the entire world but against a particular person. So the quasi contract is based upon the right, but that right is not available to the whole world but it is available against a particular person. There are various cases which is deemed as quasi contract which is mentioned under section 68 to 72. The first one is supply for necessaries to incapable person mentioned under section 68. If a person is incapable of entering into a contract or anyone whom he is legally bound to support is supplied by another person with necessaries studies to his condition in his life, the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to reimburse from the property of such incapable person. So one example, A supplies B a lunatic with necessaries suitable to his condition in life. So A is entitled to reimburse from the B's property. That means the person who is enter into the contract with another person, if that person is not capable to pay during the time of a necessaries which is supplied, in that case the person who is supplied that necessaries, that person is bound to take or reimburse the whole amount from the property of the another person. Then the second one is mentioned under section 69, payment by interested person. A person who is interested in payment of money which another is bound by law to pay and who therefore pays it is entitled to reimbursed by the other. That means when a person who is interested in making payment of any money, in that case the another is bound to law or bound by law to pay the entire amount of money, and who therefore pays that money is entitled to reimburse by the other. So one example, A holds land in Bengal on a lease. B is the owner of that land. The land revenue payable by B to the government is in arrears, and therefore government advertised the land for sale to recover the dues. To prevent that sale of land, A who holds that land pays the arrears of the land revenue of B who is the owner, and in that case B must bound to reimburse the amount to A which is paid by A as land revenue arrears. The third one is mentioned under section 70, payment of non-gratuitous work. That means where the payment is not based upon any making payment, that is called as a non-gratuitous, without any reward. Where a person lawful does anything for another person or delivers anything to him not intending to do so gratuitously, and such other person enjoy the benefit thereof, the latter one is bound to make compensation to the former one in respect of or to restore the things so done or delivered. So one example becomes very clear. A is a tradesman, leaves the goods at B's house by mistake. B treats the goods as his own, and when B treats the goods of A as own goods, in that case and use them, then B must bound to pay the price of the goods which is used by him to A who is the trader or owner of the goods. The next one is liability of a finder of goods, that is mentioned under section 71. A person who finds the goods belonging to another person and takes them into his own custody is subject to make the same responsibility as bailee. He must take reasonable care of the goods and keep the goods in his own custody as sound condition and try to find out who is the true owner of the goods. So this is also one of the type of a quasi contract. The next one is payment of a delivery by mistake or under coercion, that is mentioned under section 72. A person to whom money has been paid by mistake or anything has been delivered by mistake or under coercion, that means forcibly that has been provided or that has been delivered, in that case the person must take the goods or must repay or return that. So the example is A and B jointly owe rupees 5,000 to C. That means they combinedly provide the money to C, one type of a lending money or that is loan, by way of a loan. A alone pays this amount to C. B, not knowing this, again pays 5,000 to C. So when A pays the amount to C, to whom the money has been paid by way of loan, B is not aware about that. So being not aware, B again pays the same 5,000 rupees to C. In this case, C is bound to repay the 5,000 amount which has been paid by B, and this amount is paid by B by mistake and already paid by A. As A and B, they jointly decided to make payment to C. In that case, when B make payment, after making payment by A, in that case C must return that amount to B as this is paid by B under mistake. So when anything is paid or money to whom it has been paid by mistakenly or that is paid through coercion, in that case when the person to whom it is paid by mistake or under coercion, that person must repay or return the amount to the particular person who paid it by mistake. So these are the various modes of a discharge of contract and what are the remedies available for discharge of contract that we have discussed. Hope you students all have cleared about my topic on today's class. If you feel any doubt, then you can give your comment in YouTube comment section. Thank you. Have a good day to all of you.